is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough, of Strategic Command World War I, the Ludendorff Offensive, and I'm going to safe spot I can click on a thing to not do that. No, let's move this like this. There we go. There we are. Now I can see things, and it looks like we are actually live on the interwebs. Don't know that anybody is quite here yet. I got a few people that watch me, which is really nice, not to be shouting into the void, but it takes a while for people to show up. It does. I understand. Okay, well, let's make an episode here. I haven't been posting too many episodes, but let's make one. It's September 5th, 1918, and this alternate reality of the playthrough of Strategic Command World War I, the Ludendorff Offensive. The Entente politicians have been demanding certain cities must be held at all costs, such as famously as Verdun here, or maybe infamously at this time, but these other cities which has denied the flexibility of the French army to react to Germany's advances, to the point that the main supply routes for Britain have now become vulnerable because Britain needed to come in here and shore up the French front. And the Americans have been thrown into the line early, without a lot of training and very much not in a coherent fashion. And this crumbling has left the road to Paris nearly open. And good morning, Jamnuska. And so let's see how this goes. Now, is what I just said cope? Cope that I've been playing a bad AI? Maybe. Would, and there was most assuredly time, would France have evacuated Verdun and the forces here? There were a bunch more forces here as well. In time, it would have obviously freed up these other German divisions, but still, would they have evacuated? I do not know, because, and I've been pontificating a lot, and I was getting ready to play, but I'm going to pontificate for a moment here. Hopefully not too long. If you want to jump forward to when the screen starts moving again, you can. That could be a signal here. We talk about civilian control of the military. Why is that a valued thing? Seriously, why is it a valued thing? In the German Empire, at this time of September 1918 and before, there was no civilian control of the military in the German Empire. It had its own separate establishment. The Kaiser, Wilhelm II in this case, but the Kaiser was both head of the civil government and head of the military. Now, you might say that that's civilian control. But no, the Kaiser was a military man. Kaiser and kings and emperors. And if you look at emperor, to my understanding, the root of that is Latin imperator, which is a military commanding position. It's not a civil commanding position. We're military leaders. And you may go, oh, but in America, the president is the military commander. Yeah, and he's elected. But we also have, in the chain of command, it's sort of kind of yes and no, and maybe somebody could get more into the weeds than this. But yeah, the president's straight to whatever level of command he is. It is his chain of command. But there's also a Secretary of Defense and a Secretary of fill in the blank, the Air Force, the Army, the Navy. Like currently, the United States Secretary of Defense is Lloyd Austin, who has very little military experience. And the Secretary of the Army has never been in the Army, as far as I know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Please do. I love to be educated, if I mess up. But from my understanding, so they put a person who's never been in the Army in the chain of command and the civilian management of the Army. And how do I put this? Well, another data point here. Charles de Gaulle, then I believe a colonel, in the interwar period, writes a book, Towards a Professional Army. Now that really upsets the politicians and sort of sidelines his career, so much so that it dooms France. Now, maybe France would be doomed anyways, but it contributes to the dooming of France in that, he's given command of France's 1st Armored Division. Oh, there were armored formations, mostly like battalions or companies spread everywhere, not in a concentrated motorized force. But I forget what the division was called, but the first one was being was being stood up during, Fall Gelb, during the German invasion, and Arras attack, I believe, is where it first goes against the Germans, and it isn't even completely formed division at that point. And to my knowledge, it was nothing what he said in the book that caused the problems. It was the title, Towards a Professional Army. The French politicians feared a professional army. I don't know that the people feared a professional army, like that they were thinking the army was, getting ready to do a coup against whatever elected governments, but they feared the army. And when you fear your army as much or more than you fear potential enemies, something is severely wrong. What the hell do you think you want to do that's going to cause the army to, do a coup, take over? And you go, oh, well, we're not doing anything. We're just afraid that some general is going to decide to want to be in political power. What the hell is wrong with your nation that the army could think that people would put up with? A military dictatorship that was uncalled for. Yeah, if your political leaders are doing wacky shit, I mean, just think. Just think if they were to do something so wacky and come out and say, "Well, we can't tell what a man or a woman is. Biologists can't determine this fact. None of our biologists can determine this fact, or none of our politicians can determine who is a man or a woman." That would be, if you had political leaders like that, whether at the top or at mid-level, that they couldn't just simply say, hey, certain XY chromosomes and you're a man or a woman. That would be, something that no one would believe is real. No one would conceive, literally, no one would conceive that a political leader couldn't immediately announce or say what a man or a woman was in 1970 or even in 1980. None of them could. And then, of course, you get, just imagine that someone who's been nominated to the Supreme Court of the United States, when asked that question, can't just simply answer that question. That just can't be real. Of course, that there's no possibility of that being real. And so, I know I'm just saying unrealistic things, but because to any rational human being, let me restate this. To any being out there, squirrel, horse, dog, insect, they instantly know what is a man or a woman. I think a lot of them can just smell the gender difference or something, but they know that none out there, and it doesn't take rational. Just some animal knows the difference between a man and a woman. That would be ridiculous that anybody would postulate the idea that you just can't immediately define or tell what a man or a woman is. So what so it would take something radically nut job like that for the military to do a coup that then the population would just go, oh yeah, okay, I'll live. This is better than the nut job politicians running the place, of course. So since that, and so if you fear your own military more than you fear the enemy, that's a problem. You have a society that has a severe problem. And I think it's it's something to consider when it's just something to consider that we could we could see that kind of a thing. Let's see what Jim is. Not sure what your De Gaulle wrote that book, but France was going through a lot of left wing thoughts at its academic level during the 50s and 60s. Oh, no, Jamnuska, I'm talking in the interwar period. He wrote it in like 1937 or something, um, towards a professional army, because France, or the French politicians, I should say, did not want a professional army. They wanted a mass, levy in mass, which of course starts with the French Revolution, army of the populace, and an amateur army, an army that is not made up of professionals, but just made up of the populace. That was a drafted army. That's what the French politician, not a not careerists. Oh, they accepted that some units were going to be careerists, but that was going to be a um, few specialty units here and there and whatnot, but not a standard thing. Yeah, but they were in the 20s and 30s going through radical leftist elements too. And so, and of course, we can see lots of military dictatorships around the world, often because governments are behaving badly. I think I think it should be unthinkable that your military would create or make a coup against your government. Is what it should be. But politicians, I guess, continue to want to do things that are so unreasonable that the populace will, or the army will think it's needed to do a coup. Okay, so we're now moving ahead with playing that game. Okay, minor little push there. These guys will come down here and entrench. Entrench still. French. Oh, right. Well. Okay. Yeah. So I think, nice sort of positing of things here. Politicians are, how shall I put this? Too divorced from the military. Meaning, should you have, or maybe you shouldn't have, should be the politicians who are not needing to be career military, but to have significant service in the military. These guys got 10 shells, so let's okay, well, okay, they moved there. These guys, if they move in, they can't entrench. These guys, so unentrenched. Move them up forward. Them out of the way. Guess we'll keep moving the artillery forward here. I don't want to move too far off that road. Okay, these guys got 7 shots. And attack. So let's do the attack. Trenches around you. There we go. Hmm. Well, and Right, like keeping pressure up on the enemy here. Well, I think we got to remember roads/rails, because it's sort of a road and a rail, are key lines of advance. We can't just come across without. Terraces are good. I think this way is right. We'll just hit him in the flank, I think is basically what we're doing there. Let's, yeah, let's that. These guys are either been active or pushed past full supply levels. Morale boosted by the capture of Aberville. Belgian morale falls due to the loss of wipers. British morale falls due to the loss of wipers. Yeah, Aberville, Greens. Morale boosted by the capture, right? Hmm. Hmm. Uh-oh, we lost a cavalry division. That was the division that just had been pounded by all that artillery very heavily and is retreating and is shattered now. Okay, so they turned my flank there. Trying to break out past the Austrians. We're hitting that one Austrian division hard. Have we overextended? The Marines are here. Oh, they're coming to flank us there. Okay, now that we've taken Reims, it looks like they're getting smart and withdrawing down the road. Let's see. We had a few losses. Now we've got 6 shells here and an entrenched British division. So let's see what we can do. He is not entrenched, which is not the best, but still. Okay, he can move up to here and he'll fill in the position. No, he cannot fill into that position. Can he fill into this position? Yes, he can. Let's pick on him. All right, well, that hurt him considerably. Now, down here, this guy. Only have 4 rounds. Let's fire 3 of them. Right. If you had moved up there and we've moved a little too far forward, so we lost the division. Now here, okay, 4 rounds to... We almost got this anyways, but let's... can move in and entrench. There we go. Stabilize that a little bit. Well, it looks like I can move to the coast. Looks like I just did. Wow, we have cut off this section of France from the rest. We've taken Dunkirk, pushed up here. Wow. Okay. French. Ten shells. Let's see what we can do with 10 shells. Not really enough. He cannot reinforce. Are we that low on supply coming down here? All right. Four rounds. Lots of ability to push. Let's see, maybe up north? Yeah, let's see about closing this. Okay, I think we have more threats from in here than out there. Maybe we'll even move down. No, we're moving back. Not entrenched. Okay, look at massive pockets. Well, let's first reconnaissance the tanks. Drop a few bombs. Drop some more bombs. And let's artillery the tanks. Now you got to realize, I'm artillerying tanks. Well, if I directly hit or hit very nearby, I will damage the tanks or destroy them potentially. But also, tanks need things like fuel and munitions and whatnot. So there's a lot of ancillary troops and forces and whatnot around those tanks that are very susceptible to being artilleried. Okay, we're going to do that, and we can move to here, which will take you, and you will come down the trench. So yeah, that is not well. Okay, they've now, the French at least, the Americans did not, but the French evacuated from here once they lost the reason for being here. Hmm. Let's think about this, because do I push down this road more, or do I push down this other road up around the top? We'll think about that too, but hmm. We'll move you all the way back there. We'll get you refitted next turn. You're pushed up into here. Oh, shoot it out. Okay, and we will prudently move it back just in case. don't want to move right next to that fortress, which is limiting our scope of actions, but I think that's fine. This out here is mostly just meant to be a threat. Hello, Paulette Can. How you doing? Well, you've actually, if you will take a quick look, we've taken Dunkirk, but we do have an encirclement of, and I don't quite right off the hand know what the British moved down here earlier, and to help with crumbling France, and then they've gotten completely cut off here. Verdun is entirely encircled, but it is a secondary supply source, so it's getting its own. Pas de Calais, okay, Pas de Calais. I know the Calais is here, the city, but the Pas de Calais, cool. Hello, Lieutenant Luigi. So we have that encirclement here. France had been holding Reims with lots of troops in here, but now that it's fallen, they're falling back smartly. And over here, I used to keep, before the days of audiobooks on little players, I used to keep books in my car to read, like, when I had a few minutes here or there or wherever. And one of the books that I used to keep in my car was Infantry Attacks by Rommel, but another one was a translation of Sun Tzu's On War. And so I'm very much in the Sun Tzu camp. And we can come all the way out here. I wish there was an intermediate. Paris is right down in here. Viewpoint. And as I've been saying from the beginning of this playthrough, the path to Paris was push up here and push over here. Not that I was planning on swinging like either around the coast or around here to get to Paris, but push out on the wings, be successful in my win-loss ratio, not so much successful necessarily in taking territory. Like, we haven't really taken too much out here. Obviously, they used to hold up into here, but to force the enemy to reinforce, move forces out here, so that then the center would crumble. So that has been my strategy with this game, as well as playing as if I was an actual real general in the First World War, and with that meaning how I would treat my men's lives and whatnot. Can't the Allies just not redeploy from sea back? Yes, they can. Now, I know not everyone was here at the start, for sure. Yeah, I understood from the front at Calais. Right. Oh, they could. They could. I'm playing against the AI, which has been programmed, Herbert Carter or whoever, one of the guys that developed the game. I forget who was programming the AI. So in a way, I'm playing against the human. In a way, I'm obviously playing against a rather limited AI. Meaning, how well does the human program in the contingencies? And I will very much say this here. You can see this line of American troops. There had been a bunch of French forces here because they held Reims and holding the flank. And they've just now, once I took Reims, the French have been evacuating. The Americans haven't shifted their position yet. Maybe they plan to once enough forces have gotten out. But so how well does the human play it? But looking at, and I have talked about in one of my, of course, maxims, is warfare is a political act, right? So, um, the idea that we must hold Verdun or we must hold Epinal or whatever, we must hold these places way out here when the real decision is going to happen here, meaning, no, there's a teeny bit of industry, probably more resources um, out here that if the Germans took it, meaning if they had fallen, we can't really scroll down on the map, but had they fallen earlier on back to positions that they could hold easier and with fewer troops, or even just fallen back to this fortress here and leave a good unit here, fallen back to this fortress here much earlier, and you could have held the northern sector here and held down here a bit better because the secondary supply sources could be another, in essence, Verdun. And again, to advance and move around, you need to have road or rail primarily connections here, and that holds a major supply hub or supply connection hub. So you could have easily evacuated that, but that might have been too much of a political sign of defeat. That for the politicians that was unthinkable. Now they may not think that the center will collapse, but you know. So playing against a limited AI. And I've with this series talked about a lot about how the political as well as military leaders were trapped and we all are to an extent, for sure, trapped in our way of thinking. And none of them in, say, 1916 could have thought enough to go, wait a minute, we don't need to exhaust ourselves in this war. And I know, and I this one of the reasons I'm doing this playthrough again and whatnot is to be able to talk about some of my philosophical developments and how it's really crystallized around World War I much more than World War II. But how in 1916 or 15 or whenever, but early enough on, that even if it's just one more offensive and we're going to take Paris, they believe that the Germans are going to somehow, or the French are going to do an offensive that's going to crumble on German, defensive works, and then there's going to be a massive front-wide counterattack by the Germans against depleted French forces, and they're going to break the front line, and the cavalry divisions are going to start streaming towards Paris, and maybe just whether late 1916 or early 1917, when the spring happens, or whatever in their imagination thinking that could happen. I don't think in their imaginations that they're understanding that somehow Paris is going to become part of the German Empire. Oh, sure, the borders might move a bit more west for Germany, whether in Belgium or in France. That's they might, but if they take in Paris. And on the Eastern Front, and I don't know exactly what dates and when the Russians are collapsing, but Germany's doing well enough in the East that sure, it might, like it does, with the Russian collapse and the Soviets or the Bolsheviks, whatever you want to call them at the time, willing to sign a peace treaty, just whatever the Germans basically want. But even at an earlier point, the Russians could have just gone, yeah, okay, so what? We're losing some, Polish territory to the Germans. How does that significantly affect the Russian state? Oh, gamer, this, that, or some other thing you want to bring up, fine. But how does that, and it may be in a real amount of effect, but compared to the Russian Revolution, compared to even if you think you can call out the cavalry and um, deal with the um, striking workers in some factories or something, and put that revolution down early enough, and the army, isn't going to, this is the failure of both sides, because you know both sides' unwillingness to see that ultimate victory is just not possible. Even, and you go, oh, but gamer, ultimate victory did come. God, no. There were no, armies marching into Paris. I mean Berlin. Sure, the German society was at such a place after the armistice of 1918 that it really wasn't going to start the war up again. And sure, the Ruhr was occupied by the Western Allies, primarily France, but there were other elements in the occupation, at least initially. And that may look like Germany defeated, but not like it was in 1945. Hello, MMDB. So yeah, it's the failure of the institutions to see the scope of what was going on in there, and just in it, the people's, you know, lose trust in the institutions. Okay, so now I have to decide what to do with all these forces. This is the part I hate about playing these games. Do I, and then okay, we can remove this for a moment. Do I want to move these forces? We control this roadway now. We've got here, as these numbers get higher and then go white eventually, supply will run better through these cities, if you will, these sort of road junctions. So do I push down here? Well, I have to take either here, push up to there, because otherwise we don't continue the supply. Remember that. Or do we come north around here to try to push down this way? Because even though we've, secured here fairly well, and they're now pocketed without a secondary supply source, they're going to eventually collapse. But we're still very limited on our supplies this way. That's looking good too. I think down this way is where we're going to go. Or the third option is just to push down this road. Okay, well, we will do, because we don't need all of these forces up here either. They can't quite do much this turn. Okay, they can come down to here and entrench. I think we will move down this way. We entrench. I'm not going to do a whole lot out here, partially out of laziness. You know, I can fiddle with some of these units, but why? You know, what I'm also worried about here is if I move up this way, well, okay. There we go. They're now encircled. Not that they can't break out, but they are encircled. We probably have to reduce the Hague pockets first to free up forces. Yeah, and I think you're talking about the British forces over here. Yeah, and the question comes when right now I have no artillery. I mean, we've got these guys here. What I'm sort of kind of hoping happens. Again, we can remove the infantry here. You can see we're entrenched along this line here. What I'm sort of hoping happens is they decide that they've got to push. And so we'll, you know, sort of passive aggressive fighting here that we got artillery, the only one barrage, that they'll try to push on my entrenched forces to break out, weakening themselves, and then we can see about pushing on them. That's sort of my hope. Yeah. Okay. I have a new favorite little tool here. Let's move you up here, get a little better supply. You can move up to there. We'll give the Entente there. Okay, yeah. French morale, loss at Dunkirk. Okay, I don't know what. Does that mean that maybe they're removing the supply secondary source out of the city? And it's saying the hungry troops. I don't know. I mean, troops are always hungry. I'll grant the game that. Whether German troops would have been particularly hungry or not over other, Entente troops, I don't know that. Germany, to my knowledge, again, unlike I've studied World War II much deeper than I've studied World War I. To my knowledge, Germany was having a massive food problem at this time, but they were doing their damnedest to keep the soldiers reasonably well fed. Just like this, what's happening there is we can clearly see that it's not a very good idea to attack up here. Now, down here isn't maybe such a big, a little bit of it. They're not doing too supply productions, etc., etc. Just from a war fighting standpoint. Spanish flu hits German forces. Artist. Okay. Yes, influenza was a massive, massive life killer. Starting around this time and for the next, 2 or 3 years. Okay. See what Lieutenant Luigi has to say. I think since the Entente was building up for the 1919 offensive, stocked up than the Germans already had on the offensive, so disparity would have been visible. Yes. Now, when you say, and I agree with your statement there, Lieutenant Luigi. How do I put this? America actually coming into the war, tilts the balance dramatically. Had America truly stayed out of the war, and by that I don't just mean declaring war and sending troops. I mean being like, and we can't, unfortunately. I like one of the reasons I like playing Hearts of Iron is that I have a world map to show you, zoom in on areas. Denmark during World War II, World War One. Sorry, during World War One, has one of the best at the time light machine guns in the world manufacturing. But they are worried about selling these machine guns to nations at war. They are very willing to sell them to nations at peace, knowing that they may go to war at any moment. But while they're at peace, they're willing to sell them, and particularly, and I don't know how much of that is any sort of moral um, standpoint, but in the idea that they did not want to be seen being dragged in. So if they, and there's a whole spy game going on of like somebody pretending to be Bolivia, or Argentina or something like that. I say being the country, yeah, or whatever. Um, and showing up and saying, "Yeah, we want to buy a bunch of your light machine guns, your Madsen light machine guns." And then, oh, sure, great, yeah. How? Oh, you want 5,000? Or no, let's say you want 500 of them. Oh, great, good, yeah. And then they get shipped off to Russia or something, And this is going on for both sides. Are sneakily getting and really trying to have to trick the authorities as to who's actually buying these guns, because they're worried about, primarily, I think, of course, Germany just invading them, but also the Entente, whether invading or putting sanctions or blockades or whatever against Danes over these guns. So they refrain from selling armaments openly to either side in the war, and they could have been, selling them like crazy. The Germans wanted every single one of them they get their hands on. So did the Russians and others. Um, I I don't know enough to not understand why somebody like Russia, just because they had access to a few copies, or Germany, they had some, Austria had some, and now we're talking more in the hundreds than in the thousands, but they had some in the use of. I don't know why they didn't reverse engineer and put them into production, because they are, during World War One, the Browning automatic rifle is just that. It is an automatic rifle. It is not a light machine gun. Um, I will fight you over that. Now later, by World War II, it's grown a bipod and maybe pistol grip in some cases out there. But in World War One, it is still just a 20-round magazine, select fire, so semi or full automatic rifle. It does, and you can press it into service in an attempt to make it into a light machine gun, but it isn't there. It's an automatic rifle. And so, the French have the show, and they have it in large numbers, and it works, but it's bad. The British, and also the Americans, because it's American design, though the British do get set up into manufacturing it, have the Lewis gun, and that's a rather good light machine gun. And we could argue back and forth as to whether the Lewis or the Madsen light machine guns are the best, but they're on par with each other, and there's each one has different benefits over the other one. But so I just don't, I don't know, were they too legalistic on both sides to like, oh my God, we might be sued for stealing somebody else's patent, in the middle of the war? I don't think so, but maybe that's the case. Then maybe it's just, because Germany, as you'll see in a second here, has the MG08 15. I think that's the right. Yeah. So in 1915, they adopt a lightened version of the MG08, which is only a light machine gun when you consider it against how heavy the Maxims with their sleds that the Germans use, or the wheeled carts that the Russians use. Wheeled carts are a little more, two-wheeled pull thing, a little more heavy, but with the wheels actually little easier to deploy around the front. And I'm just surprised that the Germans or the Russians, and the Russians, I think less of them as the ability to manufacture things. So maybe the Russians didn't have the ability to put the Madsen into production, though I still find that a bit hard to believe. And the Germans just didn't early on, and it takes a while. It takes a while for the MG08-15 to actually start showing up on the field in any quantity. Why they didn't start just manufacturing Madsens in large numbers, I just don't know. But they don't. And so I know there is a certain amount of trade going on between Denmark and Germany, but it's not in munitions, shall we say, and weapons, that kind of thing. It's more just whatever normal trade. Had the U.S. stayed out and not accepted large orders of, for weapons from places like Russia, like Britain, like France, and I mean large orders, the Entente would have been in a very, very serious position. And so, so America is getting into the war even before it's in the war, in that sense. Had they really sort of gone, hey, yeah, we're not going to be involved at all, Germany might have won. And it's only, and this was still talking about the 1919 offensive, the Western powers, in my opinion, again, not the most informed compared to, say, World War II for myself, was in no shape. Yeah, the British and the French had developed tanks and gotten them into the field in significant numbers. They had definitely done that. That is a big thing. But I really don't think that they would have been in any great shape to do a massive offensive in 1919 without the Americans, both industrially supporting everybody as well as supplying a lot of troops. So it's the American equation that really, really tips the balance. See, Luigi says, I believe the Russians were in the process of setting up a Madsen factory before the war. They could have been. It's been a while. If you want to find out the story of the Madsen and World War I would recommend the channel Sea and Arsenal. It's a very, very good channel on small arms. And they have episodes on every major weapon system, every major, small arms, not artillery or tanks or aircraft, but on the machine guns, pistols, rifles, all that stuff. And I forget if they would cover it if there was a serious attempt, not just a few people desiring to do so, but a serious attempt at setting up a Madsen production in Russia. It would have been a rather effective weapon system to have. So, I try to evaluate history for myself as well as for you, not just present historical details or something. So, yeah, and so I find all this fascinating and important and whatnot. Okay, let's see. You're going to move forward here. You have 4 action points, and you're going to attack the artillery position. And you're going to come back here, and you're going to come up here, and you're going to attack the artillery position. And it looks like you can maybe make it up there too. So you're going to come up here and attack the artillery position. Take that artillery out. Now you can come back here and secure the whole front line. And they have no action points, so we're actually going to fall back. We just took out some artillery. Right. And we did not overextend ourselves, which is an important thing. Okay, he has 5 shells, or barrages. He has 3. We've got a division here, so... There we go. And no, I'm not moving into occupy there. We'll see what they do. Pretty sure that is entrenched. Yes, yes. Okay, good. Now here we'll move up. And we'll move to here to protect the gun. Well, we could attack. These guys are going to come up and entrench to protect the unentrenched forces that we're just maneuvering. And I think down here we'll just entrench. Yeah, like that. Keep this corridor here relatively secure. Okay. 6 shells. Let's drop 4 of them on these guys. They didn't quite take them, but messed them up pretty hard. Let's look. Okay, the French have moved up to here. Okay. Well, we can either try to walk this artillery up here and push down this American front, but I don't know that that's the best use. We should either, well, as I'm looking at this here, would like to push over here. So what we're going to do is put them on rails, and yes, let's get them right up to here. So in a couple of turns, we'll be able to use them to push effectively. I'm going to move you out of this, well, move back at least a little bit. Okay, now interceptors, but I have escorts, yes. And bomber. And Lieutenant Luigi says, in 1916, a joint stock company was formed in Petrograd to implement the proposal of the Danish company, the Dansk something Danish, to build a new machine gun factory in Russia, the Kurov arsenal. Okay. That would have been good for Russia, I'm sure. And it probably would have not meant that the Germans would have naturally just invaded Denmark. I think it's that over any great moralistic reasons why the Danish did not sell arms to either of the combatants. He came up and attacked. He needs to be reinforced. But thank you for the information. And let's see, continuing our push here. They've come up around the flank. Okay. Here. And by. Yeah, being relatively well entrenched out here. I think we're doing good. Okay, let's. We lost a few units, so we can get. Well, this isn't. This is more reformation of forces out there that were in the game terms shattered, but or were made not effective combat forces, so that they would need reinforcements. Okay. Oh shit. Oh shit. Okay. Hello? These are mostly rear area forces. Okay. You guys, you're entrenched, so let's max out whatever supply will let us do. Okay. Gamer's pushing a little too hard, but let's go over here and work our way around, looking for depleted forces that can do that too. Oh, Machiavelli, I've read your book. Thank you. Do try on the pockets. Yes, well, actually, we have sealed the Pas de Calais up here from the rest of France. I mean, they still have two ports that they can either supply into or withdraw out of. But yes, that has been pocketed. We have this British pocket in here as well. We have the Verdun pocket over here. Somewhere between not really quite capable and not so much trying to pocket this, just trying to push in here. The Prince and On War. Not your discourses on Livy, but the Prince for sure, multiple times. Oh, and I've also visited your grave. I've visited your grave in Italy as well. And for an American, that's a bit of an achievement. It's not. I mean, it's not that hard for an Italian who lives nearby. But yeah. And so you were wrong, Machiavelli, when you were trying to say that this really again showcases. I've been talking in this series about. No, 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 no. Oh, no, your Art of War, not On War, but your Art of War. Machiavelli's Art of War. There's also Sun Tzu wrote that, but I'm not talking about Karl von Clausewitz On War, but your Machiavelli's. And I'm up in my secret mountain base right now, and my library is at home in enemy territory that I'm slowly moving out of. But I've read your book. Machiavelli was writing, and people are in there, and stating that, well, of course, the pikemen of the Greek just used their pike and had their shield strapped on their back to then take off and use when they were, sword fighting, if you will, or whatever, because his mind, his experience, the pike blocks, those men did not carry shields; they just carried pike. But in fact, the Greeks and the Romans, the Romans prior to the general use of the pilum, did have spears as well, and used spears and shields more. Well, pikes too, spears and pikes, and the phalanx. So the medieval, the early Renaissance mind did not understand that, yes, you could use a big freaking pike one-handed. Now they had a counterbalance and sort of where they held it too with a shield. So, and I remember reading that in Machiavelli's discussions. So yes, I've read two of Machiavelli's books and The Prince multiple times, but your Machiavelli's Art of War. I've collected, 4 or 5 books called The Art of War. Of course, Sun Tzu, Machiavelli, a couple of Maurice de Sac, Art of War. or very, very close to that. You may be War of Art or whatever, but translated in English is basically Art of War. Maurice de Saxe, who was active around the 1740s as a Marshal of France, and Jomin, I think, another French author, more of the Napoleonic era, his Art of War. Do I write? No. I do YouTube videos and talk about history, Machiavelli. Um, no, but no, I do not write books. I think we'll get you here. Pushing up on the flank. How did I start in historical wargaming? I can't tell you exactly my age at the time, but probably around 7 or 8 years old. My dad was indulgent enough and found a local war game group that met in this guy's garage, that he had a big sand table that filled basically a 2-car garage. And I eventually got to play with them some. And so, yeah, definitely by 10 years old or something, I've been playing war games. And now, well, I've been around for a long time. So, yeah, I have been doing that since I was very young. Uh, the war games are natural to me, if you will. We wait another turn at least. Okay, well, these guys. What do I want to do with these guys? Let's reinforce you. Yeah, just 8. Well, it started out with HO scale war games in the sand table, and then a bit later it moved to micro armor, as well as games like Panzer Blitz and Panzer Leader on the tabletop, and Win Young very, very focused on World War II. But yeah, so almost to an extent. I mean, before actual war games, of course, it was playing with army men. I mean, that really isn't a war game. But you know what I mean. Let's move you. No, I just don't want to move because I think there's some troops in there. So a fair number of Avalon Hill games. Not, you could rattle off a lot that I haven't played just because, expense. Yeah, I want to take that. So both of those can hit there. They can hit there. Yeah. All right. Let's see if we can. Yeah, we did purchase. Okay. Launch an offensive at Salonika down in Italy. Scientists report progress on infantry warfare development. Okay, we make it to infantry warfare development level 4. So Machiavelli, if you haven't, you should check out my YouTube channel. Hey, anti-aircraft fire is doing good. Ah, that's a hard one. I mean, I could say commonly, or commonly known like Alexander the Great, or wait for the artillery bombardment so you can hear me to complete. Lots of artillery. Even more artillery, wow. They don't like my tanks. Oh, okay, now that's going to be a little quieter. Or the Great Montrose, if you know who he is. A little more obscure. Military leader. His ability to keep forces in the field despite great hardships is something I admire with him. So yeah, oh boy, they're pushing and we're a bit overextended there. We'll have to do something. Oh. I fall back a bit. Oh. There, they'll try to keep the pocket, if you will, closed, but see what we can do. Okay, calculating supplies. Yes. Okay. Then what? Okay. I enjoy. Oh, very good. But you sometimes kind of, yeah, okay. You keep sometimes dive into topics really deep and into rabbit holes. Oh, I very much do. I know. Not much progress gets made with the game. I think that happens more in your older videos. Well, no, it happens in newer live streams too. I remember a few of you playing Black Ice Way through Germany, and you went down. So yes, 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 yes. I definitely do that. That is quite true. Um, I think you just wanted to inform the audience. Well, sometimes, especially if it's a live stream, um, it's much more. People will bring up other topics, and I'll want to dive into them. I would say I also have a lot of things on my mind at different times, so it's therapy to talk to you guys. How do I put this? I see that we're heading in society into a really bad place, and I'm trying to shout warnings out into the world, and just trying that, and it's obviously not working so well that just a few people watch. Yeah, hobbyist, if you will, a historian. Yeah, it. I don't know if a consuming passion is that a hobby. I guess in a fashion, yes, but okay. Yeah, we're gonna start pounding this unit here. They can't move in. They wouldn't have enough action points to entrench, so we're not going to do that, I think. You can be reinforced. Don't miss that opportunity. You're going to come down here and entrench. There we go, one less division in the pocket. Now, how are these guys doing up here? Still not collapsing enough for me to just want to push in. You get to come up to here and entrench. Yes. These guys move forward for next turn. Supply. Very easy. You hit the key S, and it will show you current supply here. And so 10 is best, or 9 or something practically best. I don't know. But higher number better. And then you hit S again for what it is calculating what you would have supply next turn. Don't know exactly how it's, getting, if I'm like coming around the flank, or is this presuming, I don't know. So that will tell you your supply levels or anticipated supply levels. Enemy units, no, we do not have that information. I know here, we're done, we can remove the units here. This is a secondary supply source, that hex. So it cannot magic in new units, but it is able to keep itself the units here reinforced and in supply. Similar, like ethanol is another secondary supply source. So they're marked on the map for whatever historical reasons. That's what they are. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move you all the way out to here. We're going to give up this position. He's going to come here and entrench. Yeah, Verdun basically will supply infinitely. I could see about taking out these units here. I think they would just go back into the pool and be able to be rebuilt. So actually letting them stay alive here is sort of kind of helping me, I think. Now you don't have this scenario. You don't have to take Paris to win. Take it as like I don't know their exact terms, but major victory or whatever. You need to take Paris. Minor victory, you need to take enough strategic points. Verdun would be a really good one if I wanted to focus on a minor victory, because I could easily storm in and take all these units. And I'm not saying easily do so with the units here, especially those that are in the fortress hexes, but with other units. So it's sort of like a choice. Do you want to push at Verdun, or do you want to push towards Paris? Yeah. You should move that general from Verdun elsewhere. Yeah, that's probably true. We'll put him on a train and get him up to here. Here. I'm looking for. Got that general? Okay, here. No real generals commanding this part of the front. There you go. Yeah, that's generals help with supply and other things. Right. Okay, so let's move you up to here and entrench. That looks good. We're going to move you to here and entrench. Okay, these guys, I know, just took that out. Okay, you guys can be reinforced. Yes. Yes, that's exactly why I have a lot of MPPs, is I have maxed out my forces for both nations currently. So normally I don't build frontline units past 10 in strength. Rear area units like artillery, sure, to higher numbers, because the past 10 number going that way is expensive, but with we see 7,500 points right now. It's sure, it's easy to spend the money. You can do it quite readily. I think I've sort of stabilized my front down here. I mean, I'm not okay. Well, there we go. British forces smash Ottomans. Yes. Germany develops command and control level 4. Good. My interceptors are flying. They're going to have escorts. Yes, I know. We need to reinforce him. Well, the railway guns have greater range. I'm not sure exactly what it can hit. Railway guns mostly damage strategic targets, not so much frontline units. I think they have some effect. We're going to put you right down there. You will get an immediate reinforcement. Yeah. This one can hit there. These guys up to and down here. All right, I'll check there as well. Okay, how many rounds do I have? 6. Oh, this one way back here. Yeah. Oh, that's because I probably forgot to move it last turn. It had been up here. I'm trying to move it in this direction. Not too far forward. About there. I forget to move things at times. Oh, before I forget, let me get that this unit reinforced. Okay, well. Just entrenched. Yeah. Well, nobody can advance without being, or unless they can't advance because lack of entrenchment to there. So we're just going to come forward to here, create a new defensive line. Seven rounds. French. All right, they're being pushed hard. I am pushing deep. I don't know how quickly they'll be able to respond. We will see, of course. These forces and boom. Damn. Oh, that's not good. This will help out. Well, yes, we can rotate some of these units here. He just doesn't. Well, oh, he could fall back and he could move up. Okay, that'd at least be a stronger unit there. Whatever counterattacks are going to come. Oh, I didn't really mean to do that. Okay, well, since we started this, we'll shoot one more round here. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go grab a Coke. I'll be right back. Just give me a moment here. Be back soon. Where are my glasses? Where are my glasses? Ah, yeah. Oh boy. Why am I dropping frames now? I wasn't earlier. Oh, man. We don't have misclicks. We have subordinates showing initiative. Yes, yes, yes. That's why I'm willing to put up with some of them. Okay. I am dropping a lot of frames, guys. Let me go to settings here. Oh boy. Okay, I can't do that in the midst of this. I'm dropping half the frames. Okay, guys. Well, first let me save this.